Hey friends, welcome to episode 572 of the My 123 Cents podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Huntsberger, joined once again this week by Chad Smart. And Chad, how are things going this week?
We're recording this the day after the World Series, so the Dodgers are your repeat champions, and my car is intact, so that's a good thing.
That's
We
always a
heard
good.
some fireworks last night, but didn't really see any craziness. I'm sure closer to Dodger Stadium in downtown, there were probably something, but yeah, it was actually kind of peaceful.
Yeah, with it being away, maybe that kind of helped too.
That doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
That
Okay.
doesn't matter in Los Angeles. You got to have a reason to go out and especially I guess coming after the day after Halloween too. It was
Oh, yeah.
Dio de los Muertos. I totally
Muertos.
butchered that. Yeah,
Muertos. Look at my shirt. Dios de los Muertos.
yeah.
Minored in Spanish. Did you know that?
I did not, but I heard you had a Spanish minor.
Oh, man. That was good. That was good.
Just
Uh,
kidding. That was a joke. Everyone, take it
yes.
easy.
That was a joke. It's November, so you know what else that means. If you're watching, you see
Yeah.
it's gobbledygooker season. I have excuses to bring out gobbledygooker and have some fun with that, which I also want to plug it now. I want to, the last week of November, be the Survivor Series podcast where we get our listeners and
Hmm.
viewers to throw out team ideas like we did last year. It was the first time we did it. I liked it. I had fun doing it, so I want to do it again. And so throw out your different wrestling related themes or, whatever. And Chad and I will then do the blind drawing and then we'll pick and figure out whose teams would survive in these kinds of matches. So it's kind of fun and nostalgic for me being a old school Survivor Series nerd. And we'll talk more old school stuff in a little bit. But Chad, I know we've been doing these blind rankings.
Well, before we get there, I want to jump in real quick because your gobbledygooker made me think of this. I showed you on Halloween, I went trick or treating at the tattoo parlor and got
Yes.
some new ink,
Oh, yeah,
and
that's right.
I've been trying to get you to break down and get your first. And I've always said you either need to get a Smurf or the Golden Girls, one of the two. But I'm thinking maybe a gobbledygooker tattoo would be.
I wonder if I could incorporate Gooker, Smurfs, and Golden Girls into one tattoo.
I'm sure there's somebody out there that could make that fever dream come true.
Yes, yes, we'll have to. Which you got a Ninja Turtle? Which one is it?
I got Donatello
Donatello.
because that's the one voiced by Corey Feldman. So it's
Ah,
the best Ninja Turtle.
were you a big Ninja? Because I mean, I had a friend who was obsessed with them, and I knew who they were. I could name them all, but I couldn't
Mm.
name per the mask color. So
Uh,
I would fail at any of that kind of stuff. Were you a big Ninja
I mean, I
Turtle?
wasn't a huge fan. I was a fan, and this was more of when I went to the tattoo place to see what their offerings were for the Halloween special. It was a very small tattoo shop, and the only person there was the owner. And while I was looking through the flash pages, he was standing probably like 3 feet away from me and was talking to me. And I don't do well with peer pressure and guilt, so I felt like I couldn't just walk away as I've done like the last two times on Friday the 13th when there's actually been other people there so I
Uh,
could speak out. But
right.
so I went through the page like three times trying to find something. And I figured Ninja Turtle head fits in with my 80s motif that I have going on. So, but he was like, "What are you looking for?" And I'm like, "Well, I get all these Instagram ads for tattoo places in New Jersey and Florida and places that don't help me, but a lot of them had like Peanuts inspired Halloween stuff, like Snoopy as a mummy." And I was like, I was looking for something like that, but
Hmm.
I got a turtle instead.
There you go.
So, yeah. But anyway, yes, blind rankings. I do have one for you because we are at the beginning of November, and I don't know if Movember is still a thing or if that died.
I think it is.
Is it? I didn't know if that fad was over. Growing a mustache to remind you of your colon. Uh, I think if you have a hairy colon, you've got bigger problems probably. But so I thought, in the spirit of Movember, let's blind rank wrestling mustaches.
Oh, I like it. I like it.
Now, I will say, just to get everything out, I did not include Hulk Hogan
Okay.
because I figured he would probably be your number one. And if I started with him, then you rank him at number one, and then the rest of the rankings aren't that exciting. If I don't start him with number one, then you expect him to come up. And if he doesn't, so I wanted to give you a level playing field and tell you there is no Hulk Hogan.
Okay. I like it.
All right, we're going to start off. I guess the NWA's wannabe Hulk Hogan, Magnum TA.
Oh, he had a good mustache. He had a solid mustache. I'm gonna put Magnum at number two.
Number two, okay. Ravishing Rick Rude.
Another solid mustache. Um, and these guys are all known and remembered for their mustaches. So I'll put Ravishing Rick at number two.
You already
I mean,
put
I'm sorry,
Randy
number
Cantu.
three. Number
Number
three.
three. All right. One that newer fans might have to look up because he was only around for a short time in WWE or WWF. But Big Bully Busick.
Oh, a solid mustache. And if I'm ranking just on the mustache or the performer as well, I feel like I got to include the total package with it. So I'm going to put him at four.
Four. Okay, Lex Luger did not have a mustache, so just include. The next one is a combo because I was going to say they shared a mustache. That would have been
Oh,
really awkward, but
would be number one then.
yeah. But I'm going with Triple H and Harley Race with the mutton chop mustache.
Okay. I don't personally like that look, so I'm going to put that
Mhm.
at number five.
I agree with you. I think it's a kind of a goofy look myself. And then the last one, which will go for your number one, Dashing Cody Rhodes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that. I mean, I, it's interesting with Cody and kind
Mhm.
of the dashing gimmick and then the other things that he did. Because was dashing part of the when he had the broken nose and wore the face mask too?
I think it was around that time, but I don't think they were together.
Okay. Yeah. He
Yeah.
kind of went through some different incarnations. Huh?
Yeah. So
Was that a car outside or
that
was
was
it?
a car outside.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought you had people.
Again, celebrations from World Series.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. And I've got one coming up that I was going to save for maybe that week of Survivor Series that
Okay.
do. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I dig the blind rankings, so that was good. That was
All
fun.
right. Yeah.
So,
And then another quick question. This is
yeah,
my tangent segue. Has nothing to do with wrestling, but uh, we're old enough. Remember when ZZ Top got popular?
yes.
And they got popular mainly, or not mainly, but one of the things that helped them was the beards,
Hmm.
you know. And now, like, it seems like every band has one guy with a giant beard, and so it's just a cultural thing that I noticed when I was watching Corrosion of Conformity a couple weeks ago, and they had a guy with a big bushy beard. I'm like, that's just they took ZZ Top's gimmick away from him.
Yeah, well, and I mean, it does kind of translate into wrestling too, because there's a lot of guys who are now known for their beards, like
Yeah,
Daniel Bryan or Bray Wyatt was famous for his beard, and
yeah.
um, plenty of superstars or wrestlers through the years have grown them and have developed them. But yeah, I liked the
Mm.
mustache idea. That was good, Chad.
Yeah.
That was a good Movember, something to remember.
So I guess we should also, if we're going to say Movember, just remember that colon cancer, serious issue. And if you're over the age of 45, be sure to get your colonoscopy.
Is Movember, and I'm not trying to contradict you or I
Isn't
thought
it?
it was for prostate cancer
As a
for
prostate?
men's health,
Well,
but
I consider the prostate and the colon close enough
they're
together
in the
to,
they're in the same neighborhood. Yeah, I
yeah.
think you got to check them both the same. So,
Yeah, one's just done with the Moon River, and the other is, uh,
oh boy, okay, but
yeah.
let's get out of this disaster here. And so, obviously, over the weekend was Saturday night's main event. I thought it started at 7 o'clock Central Time, so I wasn't paying any attention. And at 10 after 6, I just happened to Google it to make sure, and then I saw that it had started at 6 my time, so quickly turned it on and caught the Cody Rhodes Drew McIntyre match.
I was gonna say, if you're only 10 minutes late, you probably didn't miss anything.
No, no, and I don't. Did you watch? Usually they kick it off with Jesse Ventura and Joe Testatora. I
Yeah,
didn't see Jesse at all. Was he on a part of
I
that, or
didn't see him. No, no.
I wondered if he was done after the whole last Saturday night's main event. So, which I think this was the first one since Goldberg's last match.
I think so. Yeah.
Any big takeaways for you from this? I think it was a pretty paint by numbers vibe for me. Everyone won that I thought would win. There were no major surprises. I think maybe Cena's announcement, which we're going to talk about here, probably more in depth for the meat of this show. We'll get to in a few minutes. But any Jade Cargill winning the women's championship, Dominic Dirty Dom retains. I thought he might have been on your the last Mustang.
Uh,
That's why I was saving him for last. So, but any big surprises? I mean, I think I kind of expected Punk to win.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I
I don't.
didn't realize the severity of Seth Rollins' injury. That I knew that he had vacated the title, but uh,
Mhm.
kind of sucks the way that whole thing played out with the cash in and all that, and then to
Yeah.
see it kind of come to an end as quickly as it did. But
Yeah, karma, man, it gets you. You
yeah,
start, pretending you have an injury, and karma is going to be like, no, you want an injury? I'll give you an injury.
yeah,
Um, no, this was, I believe, the first Saturday night's main event that was strictly on Peacock. It was
yes,
not broadcast on NBC as well, and I think that helped the show
I do
because
too.
there were no commercial breaks, so you actually got to see the show.
Hmm. Watching it live, there were commercial breaks.
Were there?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, then that's why you always watch things
yeah.
later and don't pay
But
attention to what's actually going on. And
but it
don't miss
wasn't
it.
nearly like they have been.
Mhm.
When it was on NBC, I felt like they were going to break every few minutes, which this was more
Yeah.
spread out
Okay.
with the break. But yeah, they still
Yeah.
had break.
I mean, like during the matches themselves, or
Yeah,
okay.
I'm pretty sure. I thought they broke it one. Maybe they were after each match.
Uh,
I don't, now I'm second guessing
all
myself.
right. But yeah, so I thought that was a plus. Jade Cargill, Tiffany Stratton. Apparently Tiffany is injured as well.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's legit or kayfabe. Um, Jade Cargill, I still don't see her as champion because I don't think she's been. It's kind of like my issue that I had with Cody when he came back. It's like they haven't really focused on her enough outside of a few matches for me to believe. Like I believe she can be champion, but I
Mhm.
don't know if it's going to be a good title reign. If that makes sense. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Um, and I just was thinking the other day about how in the last, what has it been, 3 months, where, like you said, Seth's injured. If Tiffany's injured, Naomi, with her pregnancy, couldn't have a 2-on-1 title defense. But these title changes that are happening due to outside forces, it just it's an awkward position. It puts WWE in the awkward position because then you're having champions that aren't weren't in the plans. Maybe
Mhm.
I think like CM Punk winning champion, I think that would have happened eventually, but do they rush it? And how is that going to alter things going forward? So,
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of suspected we were going to get Punk Rollins in some form or fashion at WrestleMania,
mhm,
perhaps, and Punk finally getting that moment. Uh, what are your thoughts on CM Punk? I know I've been hot and cold with him. I don't dislike him. I think that um, this run with him, I feel like he's maybe getting some of that respect or that credibility that he felt like he deserved when he was there the first time.
mhm,
What was Punk an example of one of those guys like Cody, like Drew McIntyre, who had to leave, change things up a bit, and come back, grow as a person? Because then you look at guys like Roman Reigns or John Cena or The Miz, who have
mhm,
only been under the WWE umbrella, at least for the bulk of their careers. Um, I, you know, I guess it just depends on the person because Cody,
mhm.
had he stayed, we may still be having Stardust matches, 10 years after he
Yeah.
decided he didn't want to do that anymore. So I do think there is some credence in leaving and not necessarily, getting released from WWE is definitely not the end of the world, as we've seen with those guys that I just mentioned,
Mhm.
but also Zack Ryder or now Matt Cardone. So it's not necessarily the end of your career if you get let go by the biggest company in the world.
Yeah. No, I think there is some to that. And back to your point about CM Punk, no, I've been a huge CM Punk fan since the Indies, since seeing
Mhm.
him in TNA and Ring of Honor and IWA Mid South. Um, I think, and as the resident AEW mark on this show, I think he needed to go to AEW first, but then I think he needed to end up in WWE. Like, I think he needed to come back to AEW just to see that the fans still cared and to
Yeah.
get that love of wrestling back. But then WWE is where he needed to, I guess, make amends and, like you said, get that respect that he wasn't shown before, and to show that he had grown. I think Triple H said it in the Unreal show. He's like, there were times over the last couple of years where we would have conversations, and you could tell he was still the same CM Punk that walked out 2014. Like he
Mhm.
needed to mature. Now, again, it's unreal, but how
Right.
real is that sentiment, and how is it playing into the storyline of what they want to sell you? But I think he's a better fit in WWE. For me personally, that means I'm not that invested in him, because I've talked about on the show many times, there's just something in WWE's presentation that doesn't connect with me. And so CM Punk is just he's there, but it's like, yeah, okay, he's there. It's fine. I don't know where AJ Lee disappeared to after her one match. I don't know if he sent her home to watch after Larry, but again, uh, I think and I think he was going to be champion at some point.
Mhm.
Um, and we'll see where that goes. But I do think, like, maybe winning at WrestleMania would have given him that moment that he
Mhm.
was looking for. But at least we don't have to yeet as a championship anymore. So
Yeah, I I almost, and I stopped myself, but I almost at the end of that match said cue the Rikishi tweet in 3, 2. I didn't. Um, yeah, it's
yeah. I will say real quick with that match, I was expecting, and this is again personal thing where I can't blame WWE for not doing what I want and then saying it's bad.
right.
But I was expecting Jimmy to show up at some point, or something to have, like, the match was pretty much just a straightforward match. So I was expecting something. I don't like how CM Punk does the go to sleep, and then he falls to his knees and the guy bounces off the ropes and comes back and
It
land I think he did that in one match against Seth, maybe, or at WrestleMania, and it looked good because it was like the first time, but now
right.
it's
It's become a
every match. Yeah.
go-to, yeah. No, I agree. I kind of thought the same because I think he did it twice in the match on
Hmm.
Saturday Night's Main Event as well.
Yeah.
So, um, back in the day, back in the 90s, the Attitude Era, maybe even a little beyond the Attitude Era,
Hmm.
definitely during the Attitude Era when WCW was around, and Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage and Roddy Piper and Kevin Nash were kind of the main event guys that they're stealing the spotlight. All of those guys, and I didn't look it up before I'm making this statement, so I'm going to assume what I'm saying is real.
Well, we'll put this on the internet, so it's going to be
Yes,
true.
they were all younger than CM Punk is right now. They were
Mhm.
younger than John Cena is right now. Um, Probably not much older than Roman and Cody and Seth. Um, I don't know
Mhm.
how old Hangman Adam Page is, but have fans transitioned from the age thing being such a factor? Because I can remember people thinking Hogan was old at, in his late 30s, early 40s. And he looked, and again, we've talked about this
Look,
before. people in the 80s, celebrities in general. If you look at the cast of Cheers, for example, Kelsey Grammer was 29 and was
Yeah.
balding. And so they all looked so much older.
Yeah.
I think that they're staying in better shape. And so, Chris Jericho is 54, 55.
Mhm.
Dustin Rhodes is in his mid 50s. Does the age thing matter anymore to fans, do you think?
I don't think, like you said, because they don't look old, I mean, we've joked about it before. Like Earthquake was what, 27 when
Yeah.
he was feuding, and I would have guessed him at like 39.
Right. Yeah.
And part of that is just being younger ourselves and thinking anyone over the age of 30 is old. And
Right.
now
Yeah.
we're in our 50s ourselves, and we're like, oh no, 50s,
Yeah.
yes, where's my casket? I need to retire. But I think that's part of it, is that they don't look as old, or we've just accepted gray hair to be more of a midlife,
Mhm.
30s and 40s thing aspect. Because I mean, CM Punk does have the gray in the beard, but um, but I also think that the athleticism is also better, so that plays into being more entertained. And I for me, the aspect isn't so much age. I think it's, and I've said this about the Miz, when you have a guy that's only been in one company for 20 years,
Mhm.
that to me is more of a, like I'm gonna say, a turnoff than an age thing, because it's just like, okay, I've seen you for 20 years, you've done the same thing over and over. That's where I think guys need to go outside of WWE every so often, or disappear for a year or two, like Chris Jericho does, and then comes back, and you have to freshen it up.
Yeah.
Um, but I do. I mean, speaking of Chris Jericho, and not to speak ill of anyone, but because karma again is a bitch. But in his last year in AEW, he wasn't delivering the way that he was when he first came in, and he had put on some weight, which again, 54 years old, you can't blame him. It's
Mhm.
just how it is. So it'll be interesting when he comes back to WWE, which I fully expect him to be there by the Rumble, um, how the fans will react. And will it just be the, hey, we're glad to see you back in WWE, you still got it, even if he botches a move? Or um, will they turn on him because of, well, whatever reason the internet comes up with that week?
Yeah. It'll be interesting. And I think there were a lot of people, again, this is where we've talked before about what we expect as fans and
Mhm.
then what the reality turns out being. And I do feel like this was kind of I'm on board with this kind of being a disappointment or a letdown. We saw the video of the feet walking on, I
Yeah.
saw it on Twitter. I'm sure it was on all social media channels, but there was speculation of what WWE was doing. Is this Chris Jericho? Who is this? And then I guess the big reveal was it was the spot for the WrestleMania 42 commercial
Mhm.
with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and Triple H and CM Punk. So yeah, I was hoping it was going to lead to it, but I think everybody jumped on board and immediately thought Chris Jericho. So and on one hand, I'm kind of glad. Okay, it's not Chris Jericho. It's not what everybody expected. So you can't,
Mhm.
because last night I saw on social media, oh, it's so predictable when Jade Cargill won the women's championship, for example, and it's like, yeah, things can be predictable, but I think it's still, I mean, Jesus Christ, look at Titanic. We all know how that movie ends. The boat hits the iceberg and sinks.
Did we know that Kate Winslet was going to be a horrible person and not let Jack up on the door?
Well, she didn't let Jack off, so that's probably better. But you know what I mean? It's like we know, there are things that we
Yeah.
know how they're going to end, but it's how we get there. And
Yeah.
I didn't think the match, and not to harp on the match aspect of it, but I don't think predictable is necessarily a bad thing. It's how you get there, how you tell that story. We used to do the drawing, or not the drawing, but the prediction thing on the My 123 Cents Facebook group.
Mm.
There were several. One year, I mean, here's my big flex. The year that I picked the men and women's Royal Rumble winners and the winners of all the undercard matches. I didn't enjoy that match or that show any less because I
Mm,
picked the winners. Again, it's the journey to get there, and I think a lot of times the people that bitch about stuff being predictable are the ones that are kind of those what are they calling the fans that are so extreme on either side? Tribalist, you
mm,
know, that they're gonna defend AEW on this, but then bash WWE for this, or vice
yeah.
versa, bash AEW and then defend WWE when they do something similar. So it's that tribalism I think that
Yeah.
irritates me with fans, and that's a whole nother tangent and sidetrack there. So I apologize.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think because I mean, you talk about movie, you talk about Titanic, but you watch any movie, and unless it's a movie that is trying to, be different, you
Hmm.
all know how pretty much after that first act, after Act One, you know where Act Three is going to end up.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know, and and there are movies where they get to Act Three, and you're like, well, that was dumb, but that's because the again how you got there wasn't good.
Yeah.
And other movies, like The Apple, you get to Act Three, and you're like, what the hell just happened? That totally went off the rails. But um, but yeah, it's that you have to allow yourself the suspension of disbelief first off in wrestling, because again, they're not. I don't know if you saw the video. I think it was from SummerSlam or somewhere where they had like the punching. You punch the thing to see how hard you
Oh.
punch,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and John Cena goes up and throws a huge punch, and the thing doesn't even move. And he's like, "Yeah, I haven't hit anybody for real in 25 years. I don't, it's." But that's so wrestling is not real in that sense, but
Uh-huh.
we still enjoy it because of the action, because of the story, and you and I have talked, and I've been critical of some storylines because the way they get there isn't entertaining.
Hmm.
But that's that's just like I think it's more when things don't make sense, where you're like, wait, why did he do this? Not because, oh, he didn't do what I wanted him to do or what I expected, but because it's like, okay, he was feuding with this person, and now all of a sudden the attention's over here. I don't have a good example off the top of my head to mention, but I think, again, social media has been the downfall of society in my cynical views, and so we I think it's better, and maybe it's better for clicks. Maybe Eric Bischoff is right that controversy creates cash, because obviously you and I aren't making money off of
Hmm.
our social media things, where we try to be more positive. But I think people just want the need to complain about something,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, in our world right now, there's a lot to complain about. So
Yeah. And there was something that happened last or during Saturday night's main event, and now I can't. I should have written it down. We've also reached the age where we need Prevagen to remember things like that. That I'm like, watching this without suspending your, like watching it logically, you're like, well, why would you do this? And now I don't remember what the heck it was. But yeah, I do want to throw some props out to AEW because as you
mm,
said, you're the self-proclaimed AEW mark, and I've been probably more critical or more cynical about AEW. I loved the thing they did on Wednesday night with Adam Page and Samoa Joe and Samoa Joe's guys,
yeah,
Rikishi 2.0's guys with the Tony Schiavone costume. I
yeah,
thought it was clever, and but I saw people shitting on it online, and I'm like, go figure. But
yeah. I
throw a
mean,
little,
it was clever, but I think the way they got there was very convoluted, and so I can see the criticism, but again, it's that suspend disbelief that this worked, and just be
right.
entertained that they did something we haven't seen in several years.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but was it last year that Page was in the Stay Puft
Step up.
Marshmallow Man?
I don't know if it was last year or the year before, or it may have been a few years ago. I don't
Okay,
remember.
I was kind of hoping that this was going to be kind of like almost like a Kofi Kingston spot in the Royal,
Mm,
where every year we see Adam Page do some sort of
yeah.
Halloween costume chicanery, because I did like that and I thought it was clever. And at first I didn't see, I saw them kind of out of sequence, the clips that
Mhm.
I saw, and then I finally saw like the whole segment, and to me it worked. And but there were
Yeah.
people that were complaining about it, as you would expect. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like because I'd watched the show not live, I watched it later, which I
uh-huh.
didn't. I don't read spoilers. I come home Wednesday night and then I still watch it that night. So I only saw the by fast forwarding, I think I only saw the people in the costumes like maybe once prior to that last segment. And then I'm like, when they're bringing them out, so this is where the Christmas, I'm like, why are these people dressed up? They have nothing that has nothing to do with what's going on with, why do they have to be dressed up in costume to bring out a contract for Samoa
Yeah,
Joe to sign? Why not have Tony Schiavone already have the contract? And also my question is, why do they have to sign the contract right after the match? That they don't do that any
right,
other time.
right, yeah.
So
It's those wrestling contract things.
yeah, and it's like, how come some matches have to sign a public contract and other matches are just they can be made on the fly and they happen during a show? I don't. That's but yeah, I no, I thought, and especially having Tony Schiavone keep talking and making it look like Hangman was, and again, that the way they framed it, you couldn't really see him
Right.
until he spoke
Yeah.
his line and then came out. And I did also think it was a cool callback to Halloween Havoc 89 or 90, where Shivani dressed up like Phantom of the Opera.
It would have had to have been 90 because he was in
Okay.
WWE in
Okay.
89. So yeah, 90 or 91. I'm gonna
Now
ask.
I fully expect Samoa Joe to kick Tony Schiavone's ass this week for setting him up like that.
There you go. I'm gonna pick your brain on one more thing, and then we'll get to the John Cena.
Okay.
So I'm sure you've seen the image online. It's Cody Rhodes, it's CM Punk, it's Jade Cargill, Ricky
Mhm.
Saint. It's those four. I don't think there's anyone else in that
No,
picture.
that's what it's for. Yeah. Yeah. It's all the
They're all,
AEW ex AEW
yeah,
guys as
former
champions.
AEW competitors now with WWE championships. And then someone pointed out Blake Monroe isn't pictured in there because
Yeah.
I guess he won. Did she win the women's North American championship or the
I
women's?
think it's the North. I think it's North American.
So um, I feel like the internet, of course, is making a bigger deal out of it than necessary. You
Yeah.
know, blaming Tony. Tony Khan's fails. Blah blah blah. Tony Khan fumbled these people. Whatever the argument is, and maybe
No,
is Ethan Page a,
he's North American
or, or did he lose
champion.
to Ricky Stark or Ricky Saint?
No, he's still one champ. I think he's North American because he was at Halloween Havoc last week. He defended against one of the AAA guys, Dr. Wagner Jr.
Oh,
Senior Festival, whatever.
so we see major champions in WWE who were once in AEW, which
Mhm.
I mean, obviously we saw that at one point when Mox or Jericho, Cody were champions in AEW. I don't find it to be a big deal, but fans seem to make a big deal about it. Do you have a thought either way on that? And did they take that picture to kind of put that narrative out there? Do you think?
Uh, I
Or was
mean,
it?
my thing is, yeah, if you want to be sarcastic about it, it's like, oh, look at these AEW cast offs that are now, I think more for Ricky Saints and Ethan Page, it's like, hey, being friends with Cody Rhodes is a good thing because
Mm,
again, I don't watch NXT on a regular, so I Ricky Saints when he was Ricky Starks was someone that when I saw him in the NWA, I thought had potential. When he came into AEW, I thought he had potential. What I've seen from him in NXT, I'm just like, yeah, okay. But again, I'm not seeing him on the regular. I
mhm.
don't know this story. To me, that photo is more of a um, update of the one from like 15 years ago when it was Zach and Kofi and Punk and
Yeah.
Evan Bourne all having championships. And I think because Jade and Punk both won their titles on the show, it was just a champions roll call. Again, why Ricky Saints is in the photo when he wasn't on the show. good friends with Cody, I guess. But I don't really, again, not going to make a big deal out of, because it's just a prop. It's just a belt, it doesn't mean anything.
True, true. Well, something that does have some meaning, and I told my wife because over the weekend we didn't really have big plans. We did go out and I did a burger review on Saturday afternoon, but Saturday night I said, "Hey, I would like to watch Saturday night's main event tonight." And then I said, uh, "And on December 13th, I would also like to be home because I do want to watch Cena's last match live." And we don't know yet who that opponent's going to be. Maybe after this tournament, I'll change my mind and not care. But John Cena announced via video that there's going to be a tournament, and I guess they're announcing the brackets Monday night on Raw, or that's where we're led to believe. I think the thing that got people buzzing was the line about past opponents, uh, opponents that I haven't faced before, and maybe even some guys that aren't here or in this company, which of course has led to more speculation of Edge or Cope. I still, in my heart of hearts, don't think it's going to be him. It'll be interesting to see what they do if they have any. I'm trying to think of guys from Cena's past that aren't around in WWE anymore, um, unless it is someone like Jericho, which I don't really remember he and Jericho having a whole lot. I know they wrestled, but I don't remember there being a ton of, not like the Edge feud, obviously. So I guess my first question to you is, what are your thoughts on the tournament concept? Because by and large, tournaments, when I was a kid, I liked them a lot more than I do as an adult. I think they're kind of, especially because they seemingly zip through them, or they don't, the WrestleMania 4 tournament and then the Deadly Games from Survivor Series 98 are probably, in my opinion, two of the better tournaments ever. Of course, JCP had the Jim Crockett Memorial Tag Team Tournament Cup, which I enjoyed that as a kid too. But nowadays, what are your thoughts on the tournament concept for this to determine Cena's final opponent?
Well, first off, we have to acknowledge that by doing a tournament, WWE is just ripping off Tony Khan because, I mean, AEW actually does have their tournament, their women's tag team title tournament going on right now, but they seem to come up with a new tournament every 6 weeks. Um, I think the problem with tournaments today is the predictability factor that we talk about. Like when you see the brackets, I would think 9 times out of 10 you could predict what the final two are going to be.
Yeah.
And so I would hope that this Cena tournament will be a little bit more up in the air, and again have some surprises, have some upsets thrown in.
Yeah.
For um, uh, I don't. Again, I just don't see Edge being there, and I think that line, like you said, was there to get people talking. Um, I would think maybe it will be a Jericho who's technically not in the company, right now, or will be some AAA guys that, I don't know how they classify. Are they in WWE or are they strictly AAA? I know it won't happen, but I would like to see Big Show come back. I
Forgot
mean,
about
because
him.
that was probably next to Angle, who obviously isn't going to be coming back. Big Show is probably the guy that put Cena on that trajectory to go to the top.
Hmm.
But I would like to see Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona get his, and I think he's angled for a match at Madison Square Garden,
Hmm.
which will be Cena's last time at MSG. Um, I think there's again, the indie talent that's out there, because I don't watch the indies like I used to. There's nobody that I can really think of that would be like, oh my gosh, if they brought this guy in, it would be huge.
Hmm.
I think the only ones that they can do that are ex WWE guys.
Right. Well, and it kind of goes
So
back.
Hornswoggle it is.
Yeah. Well, we talked a while back too about, going to see a band, and
Mhm.
do we want to hear their new stuff or do we want them to play the hits? And I, I think I know I did. I lean towards playing the hits, and that's kind of how Cena's farewell tour has been. I've been
Mhm.
more comfortable seeing Randy Orton and CM Punk and R-Truth, those guys,
Yeah.
rekindling those things. The final match, does it need to be going out as the victor? Does it need to be someone that he's, because there was also the line in that package about the tournament of, I want my last match to be like someone taking the opportunity like I did before my first match, and they show him coming out and
Mm.
confronting Kurt Angle. So i- is this really truly going to be built as a torch passing moment? Because Edge is not that guy. And I
Yeah.
and if I had to pick, I would want it to be Edge. But if it's not going to be Edge and we're not passing a torch, then it needs to be Braun Breaker or Dominic Mysterio or Mr. Iguana. I'm hitting there, but I mean it needs to be someone that can then, take that credibility to the next level, and not like they
Mhm.
kind of fumbled Baron Corbin with Kurt Angle's last match. So truly, this could be like that ending the Undertaker streak moment where again, I don't know that Brock Lesnar needed to be the guy to do that, but when he did that, he went on a bigger trajectory than I think we thought he was going to be on when he came back. So uh, I'm still torn. I don't want it to be Gunther. Um, I just again have
Yeah.
not connected with him as a fan, and
Yeah.
that's nothing against.
And I don't think Gunther needs it.
Yeah,
Like you said, if it's going to be that passing of the torch, I think Gunther has already proven himself
yeah,
enough in WWE. And even, I think speculation is Cena will face Dominic Mysterio at Survivor Series because that's in Dom's hometown.
hmm
But I think even though Dom is IC champion and Mega World champion, that him beating Cena would do more for him than Gunther beating Cena will do
right.
for Gunther. Um, and real quick, I don't know if you've heard the conspiracy that the reason Brock beat Taker was to take attention away from Daniel Bryan winning the title at WrestleMania 30. Um,
Really, I had not heard
yeah, um, it's on the internet, so obviously, again, true.
that.
But yeah, I think unless they can get Edge or Big Show and I'm trying to think of who else, maybe, I mean, probably they should have saved Cena and Orton for that final match just because they have such a history of
Mhm.
uh, matches, the number of matches they've had. That would have been a good way to end. But like you said, does Cena need to win? Should he go out on his, and this is why I don't know. For me, I don't care that much about that last match because I said it a few weeks ago on the show. I would rather see that Saturday night's main event be a tribute to Cena than
Yeah.
actually having a match. Like, let's acknowledge the career more than the match. I think that would be more emotional than a match will be.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm curious to see what else is happening that night. And again, we talk about it all the time. We just got to wait and see,
So, yeah.
because I'm hoping that the tournament is over by set, and it's not a case where it's like the finals happen and the opening match of Saturday Night's main event, and then the
Mm.
main event is Cena versus that. I want
Or
that.
even the finals being ending on the Raw or SmackDown that week, and then you're like, okay, the finals are over, and now we're going straight to the match. Like, give
Right.
it a time, at least a week to
Yeah.
kind of be
Because
hyped up.
I also saw, the school of thought where Dominic and Cena wrestle at Survivor Series, and Cena wins the IC title because that's
Mm.
the one belt eluding him from the Grand Slam championship. I don't know that I like that idea either, because then the last match, that person, if they
Mm.
beat Cena, they get the IC belt and they end, or their
Mm.
Cena's last match. And I think putting a title in there just convolutes in my opinion, the prestige of it being Cena's last match. Like
Yeah.
people, because again, I don't think Cena's coming back for Saudi money down the road. I don't think he's going to get in there and we'll see him again on TV, but I don't think he's getting back in the ring. I think that
Yeah.
December 13th, 2025 will truly be his final match. And I think that needs to be something that is celebrated, and that is that torch passing. I'm leaning now, I guess,
Yeah.
towards a torch passing moment where, yeah, this was the guy that did it.
Yeah.
Or I guess girl. I mean, maybe they'll put Nia Jax in there. I don't know. But I
Don't
just
tease me.
yeah, I view it as a probably a bigger deal than I'm hoping WWE does that too, because I
Yeah.
do think that Cena is one of those goats where, you know, they weren't able to do that for Hulk Hogan. They weren't able to do
Mm,
that for the Macho Man. They weren't able to do that for, I guess, The Rock is technically still, and I guess he's a factor in this too, but
yeah.
I don't know. He's working on movies. So maybe Rock is a non-factor in all of this. It'll be interesting to see for sure. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to it. Again, there's that anticipation and that buildup of not knowing.
Yeah.
Uh, and we talk about wrestling being predictable, but really we've thrown out 3 or 4 names that are legitimate, viable contenders to be that.
Yeah.
So I like that part of it too. And I guess after Monday, when we see the brackets,
Okay.
we'll probably have a better idea.
Well, I was gonna say, do you think there will be a question mark entry into the
Hmm.
brackets just to get people again speculating, and then Gilbert comes out?
Yeah, and and it's funny that you bring up Gilbert because I do like the fact that with the Deadly Games tournament, for example,
Mhm.
I was in my 20s when that happened, and I had no idea who was going to win that, and I liked
Yeah, that
the Shane McMahon, screwing Stone Cold over, and then of course I maybe not totally tying it to the Montreal Screwjob, but the double turn with the
yeah.
Rock behind in the main event. I loved all of that, and then even as a teenager watching WrestleMania
Mhm.
tournament, um, I mean, I had picked Bam Bam Bigelow to go all the way, and he
Me
got
too.
round one. So it
Mm.
it was an interesting time, I guess, as a fan where you didn't know for sure. You didn't have the
Yeah.
internet doing things or spoiling things for you.
Yeah. Like I said, the bad thing with Deadly Game, which I was in attendance and it was an
Yeah.
awesome night, um, is that made us think that Vince Russo was actually a good writer, because that had been set up over the course of a couple of months, and it was perfect storytelling. um,
Yeah.
which then that again has seemed to go away, and now everything is on the fly. Um,
What if Cena enters the tournament and then he doesn't have to wrestle anybody?
mm, I know.
Or Juan Cena enters the tournament.
Juan Cena. Oh, we
That
haven't
would be
seen Juan Cena in a while. So, um, my question to you would be, you said you don't think Cena will step back in the ring.
Mhm.
Given his availability, if he's free, will he be inducted into the Hall of Fame next year?
I don't, it seemed I could see it happening, but the way they kind
I
of
mean, they've
built.
already got Stephanie, so they've already got their main
Yeah,
eventer.
I was
So,
gonna say they had presented Stephanie as being kind of the main event, announcing it this early on, which
mhm.
I have different feelings about that too. But I could see them waiting because I think a lot of people thought that Bray Wyatt was going to get inducted right after his
Mhm.
death, because that's what they did with Eddie Guerrero, which
Mhm.
I guess in that looking back on it, it made sense. There was still that emotion, and they were riding the wave of Rey
Well, yeah, and
Mysterio.
they've totally exploited his death with
Yeah.
Ray's winning. So,
Um, I don't know. I think you've talked before about it being what you've said 5 years. I think
5 years.
with Edge, we saw it come pretty quick, and I kind of go back and forth on you want them to be there for the induction,
Yeah.
like physically able to stand at the podium and talk and not be, in a wheelchair or, in some cases we've seen posthumous inductions where
Mhm.
don't have the same feel. I would have much rather seen Macho Man Randy Savage receive the accolades while he was here and
Yeah.
go and give a great speech, man. But we didn't get that. And so not that John Cena's knocking at death's door, but I you know,
I mean,
I would like to see him get inducted at some point. And with everything going to Saudi in 2027, it's going to be interesting to see how they work all of the WrestleMania week activities.
mhm.
They do all that stuff there as well. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting setup for all of that too. I guess
Yeah.
the short answer is I wouldn't hate it if they inducted him in 2026, John Cena, but again, he's kind of like the Undertaker, where I felt like he could have just been that single induction, you know, and kind of had that spotlight on him. Triple H
Mhm.
was the one from this year that, you know, with the number of folks that they're putting in, and yeah, sometimes it does feel like they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. They could do a couple of years where they just do one or two big
Yeah.
names, call it a day. Like I like how
They
TNA
need
does
to,
their Hall of Fame, where they,
yeah.
they do one or two talents, and I know this year they had a couple more with Mickey James and the Beautiful People going in. But anyway, that yeah, I'm kind of
Yeah.
sidetracked there, but yeah, I see it being
Yeah.
um, maybe Joe Hendry is in the tournament now. Talking about TNA, I forget about the TNA factor
Oh
too.
yeah. Well, yeah, I forgot about TNA too. Yeah. So I get, and I, now that you mentioned that, that screams to me that would be the likely people that don't work here
Yeah.
comment. But I was also just thinking, like they did for, and I can't remember who it was. But if they do on that last Saturday night's main event, do like video packages as a tribute leading
Mhm.
up to the match, is that a way possibly where we see Edge and Big Show and guys that aren't with the company but want to, give Cena his flowers, as the kids say these days?
Yeah, I could see that being plausible. Um, yeah, I again, I don't know. Like Tony Khan, obviously he's a businessman. I mean, this
Mm,
is his company, and he's also a wrestling fan. So, do you do what's best for business, or do you do what's best as a fan? You know, because
yeah.
would WWE, if the roles were reversed and Dustin, for example, say Dustin has his last match, would
Mhm.
WWE allow Cody to cut a video or to be a part of Dustin Rhodes' last match? I would have loved to have seen Dustin at WrestleMania the year that Cody won the belt. I know he was there backstage, but you know, that's where I think sometimes the tribalism with wrestling and kind of the, you know, one time only, or you know, a one,
Mhm.
who cares? You know, if Dustin was shown in the crowd, or when it was Ric Flair's last match, I think Lex Luger was doing something contractually with WWE at the time, and they
So
couldn't
they
show.
couldn't show it. Yeah.
You know, who cares? It's really, and I feel like they've made some headway with that, with uh, TNA being, you know, working
Mhm.
with TNA and AAA and all those. So, but I get it. I get Tony Khan wanting
Yeah.
to protect his I don't want to say intellectual property, but you know, his
Yeah.
investment,
Somebody. Yeah.
his
Eh,
stars and whatnot. So I get it. I don't be if Tony Khan said, "Fuck no, I'm not," or "Yeah, I'm not doing this," you know, you're not getting my guy. I wouldn't begrudge him for that, because I don't know that Triple H or Vince McMahon back in the day,
Mhm.
or Dixie Carter, would have done the same thing. You know, so they're doing what they think is in the best interest of their company, and I can't blame them for wanting to protect that.
Right.
But on the same hand, I'm like, the
Who
one
cares?
two-time shot is not going to hurt
Yeah.
anybody, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think had they moved Saturday night's main event to be opposite the AEW pay-per-view and two weeks later, like they are rumored to have tried to do, yeah, maybe then Tony would be like, well, hell no, I'm not,
Yeah,
helping you. But since they're on different nights, and if you promote it, if you stipulate to, like, okay, you can show Cope, but you have to promote, you know, World's End in 2 weeks on pay-per-view.
yeah,
Like, that's a stipulation. But and again, it's business. You and I are not businessmen in that degree. We're just fans. So for me, it's like, who cares? Like you said, who cares? If you show me someone on a video package from another company, it's not going to make me go like, oh, I'm going to go watch that company and stop watching WWE. It's going to be like, oh, hey, these are two guys that know each other, that are, have a history, and you're acknowledging that. And that was one of the problems we had with up through the Attitude Era until WWE took out their competition, is pretending that other companies don't exist.
yeah.
So,
And I think, like you said, if they stipulated it to where the commentators have to put over, you know, Cope
mhm.
is a part of AEW, and they have a pay-per-view coming, AEW, in my opinion, would have more to gain from that. Just the couple of plugs for
Yeah.
that, because I do think that there is a large contingency of wrestling fans who are just WWE fans, who don't even know that AEW or knew that TNA existed
Yeah.
before this new era, if you will, in sports entertainment. So I think that on that hand, it may open up some eyes and people to the product that weren't previously watching it or
Yeah.
knew that it even existed. So
Yeah.
anything else on your mind before we wrap up this week's episode, Chad?
I'm just gonna say, a week from this Wednesday, as this episode drops, is AEW's Blood and Guts, their version of War Games, and for some reason, they're doing both a men's and a women's on their 2 hour Dynamite, unless Dynamite is going to be longer for some reason. Uh, Kind of disappointed that they added the men's Blood and Guts match last week. I think they should have just kept it to the women, let the women have the focus. But it'll be interesting to see how much blood is shed in
And
and
they
if
do
anybody
that
falls,
on cable?
yeah,
Huh.
and we'll see if anybody falls off the cage onto a giant inflatable mat again. So
Yes. Well, we'll tune in for that. Thanks everyone for listening and or watching this week's episode, and we will see you next time.